Good morning, Platinum Top 50. Thank you guys so much for bringing us into your homes this morning. I figure in the spirit of what would have been Fiesta, only appropriate to flash my Fiesta gear. It looks a little different than it usually does, but so does everything else. So happy what would have been Fiesta, you guys. I am so excited to bring today's presentation into your homes. We have more registered than we ever have before, which lets me know that we are hitting the mark in terms of the conversations and topics that you want to be having. Proven listing strategies with a panel of top producers. We have outlined a lot of great topics. So we're going to touch on everything from timing the market to what data you present your clients with to empower them to make good decisions. We're going to be talking about leasebacks. We're going to be talking about a shift in the market and what opportunities can come from that. So tons of great content coming your way. And again, thank you for inviting us and welcoming us into your home. Platinum Top 50, as you guys know, is a program that is underwritten through our wonderful and valued strategic partnerships. And this morning is no different. So it is a special thanks to our partners at American Home Shield and Chicago Title that this is being broadcast to you this morning. And so with that, it is my pleasure. I would love to first welcome our partners with American Home Shield, Debbie Blackerby and Jada Patrick, to say a few words to you this morning. So ladies, will you take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Amber. We appreciate it. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jada Patrick, joining you with Debbie Blackerby as your account managers for American Home Shield Home Warranty here in San Antonio. We are so grateful to continue to have you as a partner, but most importantly, to have your trust during this time. We definitely understand that during this time of social distancing, things are quite a bit uncertain when it comes to the market and business. However, we want you to know that Debbie and I are here to continue to support you and your clients, as always, to help simplify things when it comes to the home warranty. And speaking of simplifying, you'll see on the screen in a few, we have simplified our brochure to a one-pager to show you just the pricing. Thank you, Deb. To show you the pricing and the plans all together. But we also want to assist you in bringing you as a realtor additional value adds that can help you keep your business moving forward. So I'm going to hand it over to Debbie to share one of the value adds that you can offer to your sellers to help ease some of the uncertainty when they're putting their home on the market.
Thanks, Jada. Thanks, Amber, and good morning, everybody. We also have a second attachment, and it's a new user guide to introduce American Home Shield to your clients. For the seller, it actually includes the coverage on major systems, what we call the deal breakers when you're negotiating between a buyer and seller. For the seller, it includes heating, cooling, ductwork, plumbing, stoppages, water heaters, and electrical. Quickly, a summary, if you will, of the benefits. Number one, for you, the agent, to help you minimize your negotiations for repairs that really might arise prior to closing, thereby protecting the seller's budget during the listing period and the option period. You know, the seller's coverage also minimizes the seller's risk after closing. You know, they don't want the headache of what happens after closing, that something might break. They want those calls to come to us instead of to them. So remember, once you enroll in the American Home Shield seller's coverage, the coverage starts immediately. So we encourage you to do it at the time the listing is signed. Pay nothing upfront, no upfront cost to enroll in the plan. The seller's coverage cost of $75 additional will be covered and collected at closing. Thanks, guys.
All right. So thank you again for your trust in us, and please know that we are available along with our other supporting departments with American Home Shield during this time, as always, to help you. And again, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Debbie. We are here, and those flyers that we shared earlier will be shared with you after the meeting. So reach out to us with any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Debbie and I have worked together since I took Platinum Top 50 over 10 years ago. And so who would have thought then, Debbie, right, when we were still using thumb drives and sending things to each other on CD-ROM, that one day we would be hosting online virtual events. So so good to see you. And Jada, I know Debbie loves having you as her team, and so do we love having you in Platinum Top 50. So you guys take care, and we'll be sure that we send all of our guests that information in our follow-up email to them. So y'all take care. Thanks again. And a lady who I don't really think needs an introduction, but yet she always needs an introduction, the wonderful, the fabulous Polly Keene. We are so grateful for our partnership with Chicago Title. And certainly a lot of you guys that are listening today were encouraged and invited to this event courtesy of Chicago Title. So Polly, with that unbelievable fiddle fig in your background, which you have told me is real. I didn't believe it, but it's real. Will you say some words to our 95 plus guests that are listening to us this morning?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Amber. First and foremost, thank you to Amber and Platinum Top 50 for putting this webinar together. We're so excited to be part of it and can't wait to hear what these amazing panelists have to share with us. And just real briefly, you know, we at Chicago Title, we're all in this together. We're here for you as agents. We've really pivoted well and expanded our tools that are available to our agents to get you through these unprecedented times. So if you're interested in any tools, please feel free to reach out to our business development team. We have just one email to reach out to and we'll all receive it. It's sabusinessdevelopment@ctt.com. And we'll set up a one-on-one Zoom consultation with you. I'll put that email address in the chat box for everyone. But we'd love to kind of share with you a couple of our tricks and tools that we have to help you continue to be successful through this unprecedented time. And we're thinking about everybody and hope that everyone stays safe and sane, right? That's kind of my new saying these days, safe and sane. And thanks again for having us on.
Thanks, Polly, and thank you to everyone, all of our friends at Chicago Title who partnered with us to bring this content to you today, and many of whom who are listening this morning. All right, well, without further ado, I am super excited to bring our panelists live with you. Collectively, their wisdom, their knowledge is so valuable, and we feel so grateful to be able to have a platform to bring agents together, to collaborate, to share, to be a resource for one another through these changing times. So I'm gonna ask that our panelists kind of join me live. While they're all pulling up, to our audience, also know that you have a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. I see Sherry Edwards is already using it and it needs a Fiesta mask. So I'll be sure to put that link in the follow-up to you. But as we go through this morning program, feel free to write your questions in. So I'll be there answering them. We have allotted some time at the end for Q&A, but send them to me. I'll filter them and make sure that we get them to the right agent to get your questions answered, because this really is your time. We want to make sure that we cover the topics that you are here to hopefully learn from. So without further ado, I am going to call our agents one by one and ask them if they can just introduce themselves quite simply with name, company, and how long you've been in business, because I think that's always important, especially when we're talking through, for some of us, managing through our first crisis. So Alexis, will you introduce yourself?
Sure. Alexis Whitean. I'm with Keller Williams City View, and I have been in the business since 2005.
2005. Okay, so you wrote out 2008. Unlike me, I started my business in 2008, so this is my personal first crisis. But let's ask Mark. Mark Lemons, will you please join us?
Yeah, Mark Lemons, been in the business since 2013, so just a little over 7 years. And I'm with eXp Realty, been at a couple different brokerages, but just kind of rode a very nice market for the last 7 years. And so this is my first crisis as well.
Prior to real estate, Mark, what were you calling your day job?
I was a pastor prior to real estate. So that's what I did for a dozen years or so. And that's my background. Largely youth pastor, but it was a great ride, but it was time for a transition.
I love that. Thanks so much for sharing that. Melissa, will you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Melissa Wiggins, and I'm the broker of Real Estate Muses. I've been in real estate since late 2006, early 2007. So I got in the middle of a crisis, and so this is a little bit of deja vu, but I'm excited to be here nonetheless.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And last but not least, Amy from the beautiful beaches of Jamaica, I'm presuming. Will you introduce yourself?
This is a photo from Turks and Caicos 2 years ago. So this was our view. Anyway, 20 years in real estate, Keller Williams, City View.
Awesome. And, you know, for our audience, when we went to kind of look through our list of Platinum Top 50 agents, and there's so many wonderful ones to pick and choose from, we thought it was important to get a diversity of representation, right? So you have some agents that have been in for 20 years, some who have been in, you know, just about 5, some who run large teams, some who are own brokerages, and others who operate as an individual. So again, for our audience, right, you have that diversity to pick and pull from, and I encourage you to use the Q&A and let's get this party started. So the thing with listings that you guys know better than anyone else is that it really requires a lot of strategy. And that strategy starts from before you even meet the prospect, right? Working with buyers, it's a different ballgame. That's more about playing matchmaker and sometimes counselor, right? So both of those. And listing involves a lot of forethought and being very intentional with the choices that you make. And so, Alexis, I would love to start with you, kind of going through the topic of data, right? And the importance of differentiating between national, state, local, hyper-local. So we know that, you know, one way that you empower your clients is through data and the way that you read that and interpret that and present that to them. So will you walk us through how you present your clients with data to help them make informed decisions?
Yeah, I love that question. So we are about to hop on team meeting after this, and week over week, we are we're pulling from MLS and from ShowingTime specifically, the area that we specialize in. So we've got market share in 78015 and 78006. So we are basically looking at that data weekly. We look at the percentage of new properties that have hit the market, that have gone under contract, that are sold, that have a price change, and that are expired. Because when we can show the client going 3 months back, hey, we've stayed steady on the percent of properties that are going under contract, right? The idea is that maybe on a national or even a local level, we may have had a big drop in the market. And when we can say, hey, it's an opportunity to present ourselves as the area expert and say, actually, we've already pulled your zip code in your price range, which we can do on ShowingTime. And this is what your area is showing. So like, for example, I wrote this down. I have my notes here from Fair Oaks. We have in 78015, last year in March, we had a month supply of 5.3, right? A balanced market is 6 months. So we are telling our sellers, actually, we're presenting multiple offers over list price, and we have 4.2 months supply. We are in more of a seller's market in 78015 than we were last year. And we can say in your price point, like in March of 2019, there were 17 solds. In March of 2020, there was 27 solds. Right? So when you can get really hyper local from price point and zip code, it eliminates the ability for the seller to say, you know, they all come to us with fears or data that they got from a neighbor or a friend or online, and it just enables us to bring us facts and data that is specific to their area.
Yeah, and that's why I also think that webinars like these are so important, because it helps us get the message out locally, like among professionals in the industry, about the actual strength that the market is showing right now. So when you go and present these to clients, is this in a report form, or is this more like a conversation piece that you use to, you know, get the conversation started and say like a listing presentation?
Great question. We actually do screenshots. So on a Mac, it's Shift Command 4. And my recommendation for an agent watching is go to ShowingTime. If you haven't already, start playing around with that data. You can pull month supply, average price per square foot, zip code, price point, and just take a couple screenshots before your listing appointment to have that ready. Because, you know, the majority of people are visual learners. So even when we're saying facts and data to them, sometimes it get lost. But when we show up prepared, like you said, listings are all about being intentional and strategic. So when we're intentionally showing up prepared to have these conversations with the visual component, it's really setting us up for success.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And again, to our 103 people that are listening, feel free to use that Q&A function at the bottom, and I will make sure that we get those sourced to the right agent. All right, Mark, I would love to throw this over your way. So, you know, diversification in business is the name of the game, no matter what it is you're selling, right? Diversification for services, for products, is, you know, a strength that business owners can bring to the table. So I'm wondering, with that kind of philosophy, how you approach diversification of listings, whether that's the type of listing you take or the clients that you represent.
Yeah. You know, first, I think just to say kind of the obvious, state the obvious here, every agent needs to work their sphere of influence first and foremost. If you're not working your sphere of influence, you're doing yourself and your business a disservice. But from there, I think you can begin to diversify. And for me, I'm not really afraid of any type of real estate transaction. I've done pretty much everything under the sun, and I love it all, and I love learning. So that for me, you know, kind of sets the stage for being willing to jump in and figure something out. And if I'm not the expert on it, I know I need to, you know, partner with somebody that is the expert. But I'm not afraid to jump in there and get my hands dirty and figure it out and bring somebody along or partner with somebody to do it. But in bringing a diversity of listing sources, I think we need to look outside of real estate, and you need to look to business relationships that you have, and maybe they're in your sphere of influence, maybe you need to develop them, but you need to get out there and talk with attorneys and CPAs and financial planners. I've been in a training before, and somebody said one of their best referral sources was their hairdresser. And so I think we need to just get out there and really work and become the expert and present ourselves as the expert to our sphere of influence first and foremost, but then beyond that, and sit down with people and ask them who they refer to. And then when they give you that answer, they may have somebody, they may not. If they don't have anybody, great. Ask them what it'll take to be that person. If they have somebody, great, that's fine. I'd love to work my way to be your number two. What can I do to get there? And really just not being afraid to ask the question. And we are in sales, right? And so when you sit down with that business person, you are basically selling them on you being their referral source. And so getting out there and diversifying the listing sources that we have, I think will help us all grow our market share and grow our business. But beyond that, I would say investors are always out there. Investors are always looking for opportunities in the market. And if you don't have a pocket of your business that is on the investment side of things, I think you're missing a part of your potential market share as well. And so reconnect with those folks if you have them in your past sales, and figure out there and get out there with wholesalers, get out there with people that have investment properties, and see if they're looking to add to their portfolio.
No, that's super solid advice. I mean, you know, as far as investors, it's like, you know, someone said the other day a phrase that was new to me, and it was this idea of like, you know, during down times, that is also when people have wealth accumulation, right? And
Absolutely.
So this idea of like investors, right, it might be an opportunity to reconnect or try to figure out how you can source some and then be a value add to them, using your knowledge, using the data to help guide them to make some solid investments. I think that's a great value add to the conversation. Another kind of market segment I think is interesting to talk about would be the second home market. And Melissa, being someone who not only owns a brokerage, but also owns a second home, and a beautiful one, shout out Cinnamon Shores, at that, I would love to know, right, as someone who owns a second home, what kind of changes, if any, are you expecting to see in that second home market?
Yes, so if you're planning your post-COVID vacation, keep me in mind for sure. But I think that we'll see a really interesting augmentation of the second home market in that people have been quarantined in maybe spaces that, number one, they wish they had more space, less space. So you'll have that evolution of what space do I need and want for not only the first home, but maybe a second home. But people will be looking for an escape or another opportunity to shelter in place somewhere else if they have to. So if you are targeting that second home owner through your marketing of listings, I think that we have a really interesting segment of our market that is in, we have a lot of vacationers that own homes here that are Mexican nationals or maybe have large ranches and then have like a little spot in the city to come to. So targeting and into that niche will be an interesting spot to be in, I think, coming up, because there'll be a lot of demand for buyers who want to augment their asset allocation and distribute their wealth in a different manner than before.
Do you think in a market that's kind of, that we're in right now, that it presents itself for a unique opportunity for people to invest and buy into a second home, people who maybe have been saving for, several years? Does this present itself with a unique opportunity for that?
Sure. I think the flip to this is that with the limitations of some short-term rentals and some of the maybe negative impacts of the COVID, you'll see buying opportunities not only in San Antonio, but in other second home markets, where if you're a savvy buyer and you're looking for a good deal, now is the time.
Well, and it goes back to what Mark was saying too, right? Because you use it as an investment, right? I know that, there's a strategy to building your wealth through acquiring those second homes, that then you use that as a tool to build your wealth, but also you offset the costs through renting it out and so forth. So as far as investments, so I agree that, for some people now is going to be a really good time to buy. And if they, if the agents listening have those people in their sphere, whether it's their family members or past clients, now could be an interesting time to educate them on that second home market. So great advice. Amy from Turks and Caicos,
Yes.
with the wind blowing in your hair, it's amazing.
Thank you.
Gosh, all right. This has been an interesting time, right, in which we are asked to, social distance ourselves. And agents, I think by nature, are very out there, friendly, touchy, that's our personalities.
We are huggers.
We are huggers. And we're also extroverts.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'd like to ask you is, what are you doing right now during this time of shelter in place to thrive, right? How are you using this as an opportunity to stay connected with your clients and keep your pipeline full?
Well, I was blessed to have people in my pipeline. So I'm just cultivating those people in the pipeline, even if they were 3 months down the road or wherever they were in the pipeline. And some are going ahead and going out of the pipeline into a buyer or a seller. But just staying in front of people. Rick makes me do these videos on site. I hate doing them, and I'm getting more comfortable doing them. We're literally going to our listings that we have sold, and now we're picking up signs, and I'm doing videos in front of those as well. So having the opportunity and the time to go to these videos has been a blessing, I guess, because now I'm getting more used to it, and he's micing me up and all that good stuff. So I guess that's what I'm doing to stay more busy. My kids are staying with me now, and my 2 grandkids. So we've got a house full of people. So it's, our social distancing isn't that bad in the house, but just getting out and getting in front of people and doing those videos has been, I think, a lifesaver. So
next you'll be carrying around a Lumi light. So put that next on your list for you to have, right?
Don't tell Rick.
I'm telling him. And to your point, Amy, whether we like it or not, all of our hands were forced to adapt to a new way of communicating, right?
Yes.
i.e. video.
Yes.
And
right.
I think along the way, what kind of an unexpected blessing that was that we all got comfortable in front of the camera, like it or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to your point, it's now we can step into that space with a little bit more confidence and level of familiarity because we've seen what we look like on camera, right? We've worked through that. And
Right.
let me ask you, so, because I saw one of these that you're doing on Facebook, and is that in addition to like a virtual tour, or
Yeah.
like talk us through what that on-site video looks like?
What we've been doing is we do the Matterport tour because we're there during the photography session. We have the Matterport tour done. Then we have the photographer do his video. And then Rick's like, you need to do a quickie video just of you showing the house. And then all the other stuff will all come together. So it's kind of like a tease, I guess, if you will, like it's coming on the market. Look how cool this house is, sort of thing. So, you know, if we didn't have Facebook, I've asked myself, how would I be doing this anyway? I guess I would be emailing these videos instead, you know. So now I don't do live videos because, you know, of course, you know, you have a couple of takes and all that good stuff. So the recorded videos is going well. And then we can show our clients how many clicks we had or how many people viewed it. And that is huge for them to see it. And they're watching it as well if they're on Facebook, you know. So
yeah. And Amy, I think too, like keeping those video files for you. So as you have showings, right?
Mhm.
It's also like another tool that you can email over to people to preview, which is you doing what would be a showing if you're not in a position to be able to do that, right? Pointing out the certain like features and livability and so forth. So it just becomes another tool, not only, you know, for content on social, but also something that you can share with other, you know, buyers agents, or share, you know, let them continue to share with their clients. So
right.
That's such a great tool.
Staying connected. I mean, you know, everybody gets so busy before this situation we're in. We're all so busy. We're go, go, go. And I am purposely calling all my old sellers and all my old buyers. I'm guilty of not doing that. And I am touching base with everybody. People that didn't give me a testimonial, now I'm like, hey, you didn't give me a testimonial. And so people have got time on their hands to take time to write you something, you know, nice on your testimonial. So that's another way I'm staying connected as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great advice. Yeah, I have been more connected with my clients in the last 5 weeks than I have, you know, over the last 2 years. And, you know, so I love that idea, asking them to go on and you know, give you testimonials or give you a review if that's something
Right.
that maybe they missed over.
Yep.
All right, so that's kind of halfway through, so to speak, and we've got so much meat to cover. So some of the topics that we are going to be heading into now, we're going to talk everything from leasebacks to prospecting, timing the market, which I know is something that a lot of people are interested in. And then also, you know, what is the positive of a shift in market? Because all these agents agree that there's a lot of positive to come from that. So lots of awesome information to cover. And again, last reminder, don't forget to use the Q&A. So I do see, Letha, your question, and we will get that answered at the end. So keep those coming our way. All right, Alexis, the topic of leaseback. So when we were kind of prepping for this call, you know, I made the comment that a friend of mine had sold their home. It was a luxury home, had sold their home and had intended to, you know, move into an apartment or something until they found the right home for them. However, in COVID, that was not something they were comfortable with. So they had never intended on going into a leaseback situation, but that became a requirement of their sale for them to move forward. And you were super eager to like have the conversation of leaseback. So I would love for you, you know, let's kind of start with the basics and like work our way in. So just starting really simply with like, what is a leaseback and maybe what are some normal terms? And then let's talk about how you calculate it and why you use it.
So for us, we've been doing leasebacks for several years now. And it's just to help the seller feel safe and confident that their house has been closed and funded and the money is in their bank. So a couple of years ago, we were all struggling with wire fraud. So it wasn't just a matter of let's get you closed. It was let's get you funded and confirm the wire is in your bank account. So I think that's kind of when we started doing this. And essentially, as a seller, you're going to have movers. I mean, there's so much stuff to, when you close and fund, you're expected to have the house professionally cleaned and moved out. So God forbid, like, especially right now with COVID, the lender does an employment check the day of closing. Do you still have a job? Or, there's just so many things that could come up that either delays the closing or unfortunately causes it to fall out. That last week, usually when we're, like if the appraisal has been pushed back or it didn't meet appraised value, well, what happens then? The seller's already moved out and either signed a lease or, and so a lease back is you close and fund, your seller stays in the house, and up front, when you're negotiating the offer, before you execute and go under contract, you're negotiating this. And you're saying, hey, my seller would like to lease back from your buyer for, and we usually do 2 weeks. And we calculate that on principal and interest. We don't include taxes and insurance. And we usually have, I think, a $500, I forgot what it's called. Amy, help me out.
Hold up.
A what? No,
Holdover?
we do $100 holdover, meaning, okay, if we've given them 2 weeks and then they stay for whatever reason, like 2 weeks and a day, we can take the per diem and we can double it, or you can do like $100 holdover. But the whole point of this is it's so hard in today's age to say, hey, we're going to close and fund on your house because we know that the buy is contingent on you receiving the funds here. So at noon, we're going to close on the listing, and at 1 o'clock, we're going to close on the buy. And somewhere in between then, we need to make sure that actually happens and your house is vacated and all the stuff is moved over. Like, that's just impossible. So that's why we started doing lease backs, and I think you're going to see a lot more of them. And my message to you when we talked earlier was just to hopefully educate the agents on what is a lease back. We tell all of our sellers, unless the house is vacant, that it's standard. And right now it's turning out to be a win-win for most clients.
So Alexis, do y'all typically, pre-COVID days, right? A leaseback was a part of your normal approach with your listings to, protect your sellers, so to speak, and buy some convenience time. Now that we are living in COVID and will continue living in COVID for the foreseeable future, do you think will be extended per se, or do you think that it'll stay the same at kind of that 2 weeks?
That's a good question. So we just executed a contract today, and her kids are in private school. And so she is a senior that's graduating, and graduation's up in the air. She's like, well, it was supposed to be May, maybe now it's June. And we really don't we don't know. And so we would like to, if we could, to stay in the house through June, right? Like, we're hearing this a lot. And so I think we just negotiated a 1.5 month lease back that was a win-win because the seller hasn't, there's just several scenarios, but like the seller hasn't yet sold their house, right? So it gives them more time to sell because they're buying non-contingent, and it also enables these sellers to live out.
The benefits of going live are that you never know what you're going to get. Hey, I have a question on the leaseback. So thank you, Jay Pine. I see you. So he wants to know, Alexis, have you seen buyers turned off by the leaseback option being included?
Quite the opposite.
I think it's expected.
Okay, awesome. Quite the opposite. So wonderful. Well, thanks so much for that question. All right, Mark, the idea of prospecting in a down market, like, I want to preface this and tread lightly in the sense that, by and large, every agent says, I'm just a resource. I'm waiting for my clients to come to me, right? And ask me how I can help. But at the same time, like we were talking earlier about investors, we know also that the knowledge y'all have is a value add. And so I'm wondering, how do you approach prospecting, to gain market share during a down market? Like, what kind of approach do you take to that?
Well, I don't know that what I'm doing is any different than what I have been doing. maybe with the extra time, because I do have some extra time, I've amped things up a bit, but I really had a system in place before this, and I just continue that system and maybe supplement it a little bit. And I think it's all about the FU. It's all about the follow-up. If you do not do the follow-up, you will not get the business. And so, and really, it's kind of the little things. My whole philosophy in real estate is treat other people the way you'd want to be treated. You know, treat them the way that you'd want to be treated if your role was reversed. So I tell them the things I want to hear if I was in the buyer's shoes or the seller's shoes or whatever that position is. And so just loving on people and them not feeling like they're a transaction, but them feeling like you care about them as a person, I think comes before any of that. But once you do that, I think you need to have a system. And so the system I use, I got from some coaching I did years ago. And it's basically, you know, you have your top 50 favorite people, and you touch on those people on a monthly basis or quarterly basis at a minimum. But then you also, there's 26 letters of the alphabet, right? And there's 52 weeks a year. So if you do each letter on a given week, you'd hit everybody twice a year. So you do all your past clients according to their last name by a letter of the alphabet. And so you have a system and you follow it and you continue it. In addition to that, I'm a little bit of an ADD kind of person. And so if I'm looking, I need to find a plumber, and I'm looking through and I type in PLUM in my phone directory, and I see somebody's name that starts with a PL. I'm like, ooh, let me call them. I haven't talked to them in forever. And so, you know, I've got 5 minutes in the car and I know I need to call this plumber, but I'm going to call them right then because they became, for me, top of mind. And so I just am constantly reaching out to folks and staying in touch with them. I do my system, but in addition to that, I do it whenever they come to mind. I think God brings people to mind like that for me. And it's like, hey, I was just thinking about you. I mean, I texted a client yesterday, like, hey, I was looking for a flooring person and your name came up because I put in the notes on your contact, open floor plan. And so we texted back and forth, and it was just a good point of connection. It wasn't a phone call, but it was just quick. It was easy, and it was a way to stay in touch with people. And so all that to say, prospecting is more than just talking to people. You do have to be, I think, intentional with it. I do some prospecting with expireds and FSBOs and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of different resources out there. There's RedX, there's Vulcan, there's LandVoice, and those kind of things. And one of the things that they have been telling me is that the number of expireds and FSBOs actually ticked up in the last quarter of 2019. And so that was interesting. I mean, I'm sure that's a national statistic and not hyper local, as Alexis was telling us to go earlier, which
hey Mark, have you pulled the number of withdrawals and expires? Because I can tell you exactly how much they've ticked up in our area.
I haven't. Tell us. I'd love to hear that. I think everybody would love to hear that.
They've actually stayed right at 3% for 78015 and 78006. So we are at we range from 31 to 33. That has not changed over the last 3 months. Again, that's just for 2 zip codes, but
right.
I would have thought maybe that we had now the number of withdrawals, because I did go in and pull withdrawals, right? Like how many people are just taking their house off the market for COVID? Withdrawals doubled.
Wow.
But canceled and expireds did not. So I think it might be fair to say, like, agents, if you're prospecting these people, be respectful to those people who have withdrawn, because typically in agent remarks, you will see, guys, we are withdrawing it. They're still under a listing agreement. But that's, if you guys focus on certain areas and you do like Mark, pull those numbers, see what your opportunity looks like for expires and cancels.
Yeah, there's always opportunity. And if you don't have a system in place, you probably won't follow it. If you don't time block yourself, you probably won't do it. So you have to be disciplined and do it, but pull your numbers, do your research, and get after it, I would say.
Well, Mark, I love too, you said, you know, it's kind of business as usual in the sense, it's like you're not doing anything that you weren't already doing. And right. I think that's a super strong message. And sometimes it's just about finding a new way of doing it. But going back to the fundamentals that were in place there. I did have a Q&A from Star West for you, Mark. He was wondering, who was the service company that you just mentioned? Do you mind sharing that?
No, I use LandVoice. I used to use RedX, but I'm with LandVoice.
Land voice. Awesome. Okay, thanks so much. And great question. Melissa, you are super brave to take on the question of timing the market. And I say that because it's like everybody has a question and everyone has lots of different answers. But it's such a real thing that you know your clients are asking you for advice on. And so, you know, let's play through a scenario, right? What if a client were to come to you and ask your advice and say, you know, Melissa, can you help me understand what might be an advantage of listing today or listing 60 days from now? In that scenario, what would you say to them?
So in full disclosure, my crystal ball is broken, but
Dude, I like
I think a lot to Alexis's point, if you're considering listing today versus 60 days from now, if the withdrawals in your zip code have doubled, you have a lot more of an opportunity to come in as a seller and reach motivated buyers who, despite COVID, have to buy something and have to move here and have that motivation to get here. So you, I think, have really the limited inventory as your main, you know, incentive to list now versus later. And particularly, you know, I think we've all kind of fallen into a routine now. We all know how to social distance and bring our Clorox wipes and gloves and masks and stylish get-ups to get into people's homes. And so I think that waiting, well, it's a personal choice for everyone, but when this is over, there will definitely be a floodgate of inventory. And so you have that, you know, particular advantage to selling now if you can.
Well, and I'll echo that. I mean, right, full disclosure, like I am not a practicing agent. I just have the benefit of, you know, talking with a lot. And so I've hosted 4 or 5 kind of mini mastermind groups over the last 2 weeks. And I'll tell you, that is what 9 out of 10 are saying. You know, 9 out of 10 feel like there's going to be a flood of inventory. And so you're not alone in expressing that sentiment. That's something that I've heard, you know, shared, and not just in San Antonio. I'm hearing that in Austin too. So it's going back and forth.
Yeah, you may have slower buyer traffic to some, you know, extent, and maybe buyers that are not as, you know, impulsive. Hey, we've got to get this under contract this very second. They're thinking through a little bit more of the scenario that they're in. But I feel like the strategic advantage you have is that there is a very limited inventory, that there are a lot of people that are on the sidelines waiting until this is over to relist.
Yep. Amy, kind of following that same, you know, train of thought, in that within every challenge lies opportunities. And I know that all of you feel super strong about that statement, as simple as it is, how profound it is. So I'm curious, what excites you as an agent who's been in the business for 20 years? What excites you about a shift in the market?
Excites me, I guess. I don't know if it excites me, but I guess it excites me. The buyers are going to have opportunities to get these low interest rates and buy homes that they didn't think they could afford because the interest rates are going to be really low. And that's really exciting for people to be able to do that. Personally, my son, he lives with his wife in Austin, and I was going to go ahead and refer him to a realtor in Austin. But then I was like, well, I got time. I joined the Austin Board of Realtors, and we went up there on Sunday and looked for homes. And so that excited me that I was able to have time to do that. And I would have never have done that. So to me, that is a type of shift. And we made an offer last night. And so now we're all sitting around waiting to see what happens. So I may have to get in the car and drive up to Austin again, but not a lot of people on the road, so it's not that bad. So.
Love that. Alexis, do you mind weighing in? What excites you, or, you know, about a shift in market? And maybe excites isn't the right word, but what opportunities do you see in a shift in market?
Yeah, it's really 2 words. It's market share for us. I mean, we're really focused on our area that we work in and dominating and market share. So we're doing the things that have been successful for our team, and Any slowdown that we had, we really worked on the business and on the systems and the little things that really equate to a high level of customer service. You know, the tweaks that the opportunities and tweaks that we had, we use that time for that so that we can go full force. Because what happens in a shift is you have the most amount of agents possible, and we have a lot of transactions being done. And then when your transactions dip, you have this downward curve, right? That you still have all these agents in business. And I think the last time I looked in San Antonio, we had just over 14,000 agents. So what happens is these agents will start to, you know, the agents that are part-time or just doing a couple transactions, they're going to start to get out of the business. So when that number drops and we start to see an upcycle, that's the exciting part of a shift, because that's where you take, if you're, you know, if you're an agent and this is your full-time job and you're looking for opportunity, that's your window of opportunity. So right now you have a lot of people in the market. This is going to be when you will work harder than ever for those transactions, because the transactions, if they're going to go down, you still have a ton of competition, but stick with it. Do, like Amy and like Mark and Melissa said, do make your connections, because once we hit the bottom and we swing upwards, like that's what, for all of us that see this as a career, that's opportunity.
Well said. I had that on my notes, like only the strong will survive, because there are a lot of part-time realtors where I pride myself being a full-time realtor. And I make that a point to tell, you know, listings, opportunities, and all my buyers, like I do this 24/7. So a lot of realtors don't. So it's interesting to watch, Alexis, to see 14,000 to what's it going to be, you know, at the end of this. Because it's hard.
And now is the time where you invest in yourself, you invest in your business. To your point, you work harder, right, than you had it been in the months past. And I guarantee you, to everyone who registered for this webinar, like, you are the ones that are going to come out on top of this, right? To what Alexis was saying, like, you're investing through your time and your care and your resources to educate yourself, to seek wisdom and advice and counsel from other people. And so I commend all of you for making that, at this point, it's a time investment into yourself. Mark, same question to you, right? And from your perspective, through these really challenging set of circumstances, what's the silver lining for you?
I mean, Alexis stole a little bit of my thunder, so I was going to say very similar things. Looking forward to a downtick in the number of agents, increase in market share. But one of the things that I'm reminded about is I love, you know, economics and history, and the 2 points where they collide for me is in the Great Depression. There were more millionaires made in the Great Depression than at any point in history of our country. And I don't know that we're going there. I don't think we're going there, honestly. I think we have too diverse of an economy, and the Fed is very hell-bent, if you would, pardon my French, on making that not happen. And so I think they're gonna print money and throw money at it to make sure we do not end up there. But we are in this market shift, and there's always opportunity in a shift. And so those who are agile, those who are willing to hustle, are going to get it. And so I'm just desperate. I've always been, and I probably always will be, just desperate. I'm not needy, but I'm desperate for business, because I want to build something for my family. I want to build something for my kids. And so I'm willing to get out there, willing to do whatever. I've yet to put on a mask. Maybe I'm stupid, but I just don't. I'm out there, and
he's that guy.
I don't know if I have to go in Bexar County, I will, but I largely am outside of Bexar County, in Comal and Guadalupe. But you know, but that's technically a public place, and you know, I don't know if a house is a public place, but anyway, I'm just out there and willing to do whatever. And so it's an opportunity for those who are willing to hustle. And so I consider myself in that group, and I'm sure that the 93 other people plus us are in that group as well. So great opportunity for all of us.
Mark, you didn't get the memo. This is like the newest spring fashion.
Right.
I mean, it's like all the rave around the world.
I'm gonna wear a bandana. I'm gonna look like I'm robbing a bank, but I'm okay with that.
Right. No, I know. It's like, pull the Band-Aid, right? Here's what it looks like. Just go on live camera and show everyone. Melissa, as a broker, right? And your perspective is wonderful on the topic too. So what kind of opportunities, or, you know, with the challenges that we're up against for the next foreseeable future several months, like, what positive do you think comes from that for you and your business?
I think this is a really exciting time. It's an opportunity, echoing what everyone has said, to up your game, to show that you are not a commodity, that, you know, as a real estate agent, there are 14,000 of them, but you can differentiate yourself. If you have, someone gave me the example of, you know, there, you can go in any corner store and buy white milk. Same thing, there are thousands of agents in town. This is your opportunity to improve your education, to differentiate yourself, and to really show why you are the, you know, $10 a quart almond, super refined, you know, chocolate milk in a world where you can, you know, have a sea of choices in real estate, and to really add value to our clients, to, you know, be a resource to them, and to really strengthen those relationships, and be just the kind of the beacon, the light in this storm, so that you can help guide them and educate them and reassure them that this is only going to be a season, and we will pass through it and be stronger, and have a more positive outlook because of these challenges. So I think it's a great time.
I think I shared with you guys. So shout out to Courtney Oldham, an agent with Platinum Top 50 in Austin. So at a mastermind last week, she looked in the camera. There was 12 agents in there with her. And she says these words. She's like, guys, this is when it gets fun. In the sense of, this is when our knowledge is going to like take us places. This, all the work we've been putting in to build the right relationships, to educate ourselves, everything that we know is more valuable now than it was 3 months ago. This is when we can help people more than we could 3 months ago. Maybe it's someone who has $200,000 of equity in their home, but can't pay their mortgage in 2 months. Now you can help them more than you could 3 months ago. And it was just, for me, a very like profound way of saying what you're saying, Melissa, too. It's that, you know, now your clients need you more than they did. And all the work you've been putting into educating yourselves and to building the right relationships are going to be paying dividends, right, through this time. So it is a time to exert yourself. We have a couple more minutes, and we have a couple of questions. So in no particular order, Alexis, Lisa's wondering, are house prices dropping or staying steady?
Again, this is going to very much be dependent on the price point and the area. There was another question that someone posed from Jay Pine. Says, Alexis, I was looking at showing time stats. Which do you find the most valuable to show? Which have had the strongest impact? So I'm going to tackle those if that's okay, Amber. I wrote down, and I'm just, guys, this is nothing fancy. Again, you can take screenshots, but so that you're confident and able to articulate it, I like to go, when you look at showing time, you can hover over and it says like March of 2020 and then March of 2019. And it'll show you, like I pull 2 zip codes. So it shows me, here's the numbers in like Fair Oaks and then in Bernie for the 2 years. And I have found the month's supply, right? A balanced market is 6 months of inventory. Anything under that is a seller's market. North is a buyer's market. So month's supply has been helpful. Look at the closed sales, right? So for us to be able to prove that actually we had more closed sales this March than a year ago. We also look at sales pending. And then we look at new listings on the, and then when you said pricing, so we were able to also pull price per square foot, and I pull everything $399 above. Okay, so that's not, if someone's listening to this going, wow, those are low numbers, that's not the whole zip code and all price points. That's essentially 400 and north. But price per square foot in Fair Oaks was average, and it shows you median as well, was $150 in March of 2019, and it was $150 a square foot in March of 2020. So that answers the question of, based on my area and my price point, they have stayed completely the same. We haven't gone up, we haven't gone down, but our supply and inventory has gone down. And so I would recommend play with everything. They're at the bottom in blue. Get familiar with them like you did MLS in the beginning, and look at a year over year. It's gonna help with perspective. And then if you want to, if someone's scared about, you can even pull number of showings in your zip code. And we can say, hey guys, yes, From February and March, based this month's showing, you can see we've had a downtick in showings, but we have not had a downtick in sales, pending or closed. That's really important because for us, when we just took this property live in multiple offers, we go live on a Thursday, we hit the accounts on a Friday to have multiple showings over the weekend. We had a bunch of showings, we had, I think, 10 showings, and yet as soon as Monday hit, we were done. Like, no more showings. So we're having less showings, but our pendings and our solds have stayed the same. That's a really important message for our sellers who are worried, like, oh my gosh, we have less showings. Well, to what Amy's doing and several other agents, they can do a drive. They're more willing to do a drive-by. They're more willing to look at a so that in-house showing is actually treated more like a second showing.
Right.
Awesome advice. Amy, so Connie Patterson writes in, she says, I'm a fairly new agent. Almost 2 years before COVID, I was about to farm an area. I put it on hold. Is it a right time to move forward with farm expense-wise? So what advice would you give her in terms of farming a new area at the moment?
Unless I think she, at this point, it's, obviously it's up to her, but to work her, her sphere first, I think, and let everybody know that she's a realtor instead of just going out there for cold leads. Farming is hard because a lot of people are already farming where she's probably farming, and she's just another person in the mail, if you will, and it may not be the best money spent. So I think it's better to focus on people she knows and getting the word out there, even through snail mail. I do newsletters through snail mail where people have to physically open and read my stuff instead of sending emails. So I think she should be making those phone calls at this time for sure.
Okay, Melissa, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, when she was saying that that might not be your best value, you've got 7 seconds between when they pick up your postcard and they trash it. So unless you're going to be in a long-term play for that and committed to that neighborhood, it's a much smarter idea what Amy's saying. Get involved with your friends, your family. Tell everyone at church, you're selling real estate. Add value to their lives first before you start spending, 50 cents of a postcard plus the design to people you don't even know.
Right. My business is built on relationships. My tagline, I guess you would say, is it's not about real estate. It's about the relationship. And you've got to build these relationships for long term if you're in it for the long haul.
And now is the time to build those relationships, right? You have the time, but also you have the ability to be a high value resource to so many. Awesome. I can see through the chat, there's a lot of questions kind of about showing time. And I'm thinking maybe, Polly, that maybe this presents itself for, another topic or something that we can, help agents learn how to use all the, tricks and tools that come through showing time. Could be another resource for us. So you guys, we are committed to bringing you more and more content and the things that are most important to you. So in the follow-up email that we'll send you later today, please don't hesitate to reply back and let us know what conversations you want us to be having. This is a time where, we will come out of this together and we will come out of it stronger. And so if Platinum Top 50 can be a resource to make those meaningful connections online, we want to flex those muscles and be there for you how you need us to. So I want to give a special thanks to, the partners. Thank you, American Home Shield. Thank you, Chicago Title, for being our partners through this. Thank you for seeing the value in this content and in the relationships that we have. And thank you to our panelists. It was more than just getting on for 1 hour today. There was, prep meetings and prep calls and prep emails to make sure that we were delivering to you the best content we could. So thank you guys so much for your time, your wisdom, the willingness to just get online and share. You guys are amazing professionals, and I'm so privileged to have a relationship with you. So thank y'all so much, and we will see you guys soon. So in the meantime, take care, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.